Someone said play the fruit version of Vultures, as if they reminded me of some shit I never actually did. I love papaya, but I settle for a mango. And if a mango ain't around, then I'll go parent.
John Mayer's 2006 studio album Continuum was a pivotal moment in his career. An album that redefined his artistic identity and transformed the public perception on his music and John Mayer as a personality. Some might even consider it his breakout album. While his previous two records, Room for Squares in 2001 and Heavier Things in 2003, were very popular in mainstream music, John Mayer still had something to prove, perhaps now more than ever. With Continuum, Mayer aimed to shift into a more blues-infused, mature sound, drawing heavy influence from artists like Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
For me, it's about patience. When I was younger, I thought watching somebody shred someone apart was awesome musically. But now what's really cool, I love watching patience happen. I love watching someone have more in their coffer than they're going to pull out that night. I just like that.
Patience is one of the key themes that comes to mind when I think of Continuum.
This is Continuum.
The other being the passage of time and the difficulties of coming to terms with it. Even John has changed the lyrics to Stop This Train over the years, reflecting his changing relationship with the song and the subject matter.
I'm so scared of getting old. I'm only good at being young. I'm so scared of getting old. I was only good at being young.
Just as the album Continuum has grown with me, it has grown with John Mayer, the man who made the album. You see, John made the decision to name this album Continuum well over a year before the album was even released, hinting at this as early as April of 2005 in an issue of Esquire magazine. I'm obsessed with time lately, constantly crunching the numbers to get some sense of where I stand in the Continuum.
There's not a lot of room to mature inside of being a musician, like being a popular musician.
With Continuum, John Mayer was at a crossroads between external expectations and his own personal artistic vision. The album marked a deliberate shift, furthering the evolution made on the album Heavier Things in 2003. One of the core messages the album deals with lyrically is John's struggle between caring what others think and staying true to his own vision. This is especially evident on the song Vultures.
Vultures is a song that I felt before I really could explain. People who are waiting to take from it.
The message behind this song and the album as a whole becomes even darker. At least for me it did when I found out that Continuum was the album that almost made John quit music. Upon turning the album into Columbia Records, he was told the album had no hits on it. I cried. I told myself I was going to quit and go to design school. That album was Continuum. I was completely dumbfounded when I found out this piece of information because Continuum stands as John Mayer's most iconic and influential album to date. I'd even argue that it's probably his most successful and earned him the most accolades of any of his releases.
Down to the wire, I wanted water, but I'll walk through the fire. If this is what it takes to take me even higher, then I'll come through like I do when the world keeps testing me.
Track 1 is Waiting on the World to Change and was actually the last song written for the record.
One of the last things we cut was Waiting on the World to Change. What we did on Continuum was we just went for stuff. So, I mean, when's the last time you heard a verse of a song on the radio with a ride cymbal? The whole secret is the space between two quarter notes.
Vocally, John was inspired to sing in a Ray Charles register after covering the song I Don't Need No Doctor. Over the years, this has been the song that's been most strenuous for Mayer to perform live. This is because in 2011, he underwent a vocal surgery to remove a granuloma.
I'm tired of playing Waiting on the World to Change. It's right outside of my range. Like when I had vocal surgery, it cost me like 2 or 3 notes, and I needed those notes for Waiting on the World to Change. So I kind of have to sneak around it. So it's not it never really was the most comfortable thing to sing. So
even if you're not a fan of John Mayer, you've definitely heard this song before. And you'd be surprised at just how self-aware John Mayer is about the subject matter of the song. Take a listen to this clip from an interview he did with NPR talking about the song back when it was released.
Demanding somebody do anything at this day and age is not going to fly. Kids don't even like being talked to like kids anymore, you know? Just give me the option and I'll think about it. I don't know that I would have had success if it was like, we gotta change it, no, we got to change the world. We got to change it. You'd be like, That's neat. That's neat. But don't tell me what I need to do. So basically it's like, you know, hey dude, on your own time, on your own dime, look up some stuff, but don't think it's 'cause I told you to. You know, a song is all I want a song to do is to just kind of present an idea.
While Waiting on the World to Change was the most commercially successful song from the record, it was tracks like Gravity and Slow Dancing in a Burning Room that really separated John from his peers, earning him a level of credibility and acceptance that he had long been seeking. It's tracks like these that really paved his way for endeavors and collaborations like the John Mayer Trio, his ongoing involvement with Dead & Company, and collaborations with seemingly unattainable artists like Frank Ocean. This was the album that set the stage for everything that John would do after, and completely redefined his artistry. Eric Clapton said that he was one of the best guitar players alive, and B.B. King even saw him as a torchbearer for the blues. That's high praise. Without Continuum, would we have ever gotten the John Mayer Trio? And yes, I know the trio did precede Continuum, but I'm of the belief that they both go hand in hand, as John's trio bandmates Pino Palladino and Steve Jordan both play all over this album, in addition to Steve Jordan playing a primary role in producing this record. 2026 will mark this album's 20th anniversary, and while this album was very much a product of the moment it was made, it still feels timeless. It really was the moment that John Mayer became John Mayer. Because right before Continuum, we got Try, the live John Mayer Trio album with Pino Palladino and Steve Jordan. The live album, which was recorded at the Chicago House of Blues, really opened the door for an album like Continuum. Mayer shredded on those songs with a fire that we had never seen before. It was his first adult album, the first sign that maybe he was more than just a pop singer with a guitar. Maybe he was more than the music that you hear at a department store, or out to dinner at Red Lobster. Yeah, I went there. This was John's album that broke the mold. It wasn't just pop. It wasn't only blues. It wasn't just soul. It was all of those things, wrapped into a package so smooth, so effortless that it could be the background music while at a coffee shop, or the soundtrack to your deepest emotional breakdown. I know that all too well.
I think when fans put Continuum on, they're going to be hit with the organic soul feel. Even though it's a pop record, there's a real organic quality that's shared with a lot of really cool soul albums, R&B records. I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You is a song, one of the first songs I wrote for this record. I just was coming up with this really kind of sexy groove, and I went, man, that might be like one of the sexiest, seductive sounding songs I've ever written.
I would say that Gravity is the most iconic song in John Mayer's entire discography, and the fact that it's just sitting at track 4 on this album is really quite insane because it's so much more than a track 4 to me. And that's not to say that I think that this song doesn't fit in the track listing. Gravity just feels larger than life to me, that it can't belong to any one album or any one track listing. It's quite honestly one of the best songs ever written, in my opinion. All disguised under a bluesy hymn about self-sabotage, what John Mayer does best.
Gravity is one of the most important songs I've ever written, and it's an experiment for me in not explaining everything in a song. And that keeps it open for me, so I can address whatever I'm thinking about in any day that I'm playing Gravity, and I can really sing to it, because no matter what happens in your life, Gravity is kind of, the tune is kind of a really universal theme about not falling from whatever rung of grace you're on at the moment, you know, not losing the happiness, not losing the success, you know.
Belief is the response to Waiting on the World to Change that I think people don't talk about enough. Further diving into the themes of war that are briefly discussed on Waiting on the World to Change, and the reservations that one experiences when you realize you can't really change everything on your own. But I have to respect Mayer for trying. For those that don't know, John founded the Heart and Armor Foundation, a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to supporting veterans' health, particularly those with PTSD. Mayer said that he established the foundation to bridge the gap between scientific research and real-world solutions for those that have served in the military. Another standout on the album is Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, the quintessential breakup song. The burning room in question being a symbolization of a relationship that has gone beyond repair, and the juxtaposition of slow dancing, detailing the inevitable breakdown of the relationship as something similar to a fatalistic dance. Stop This Train, as I mentioned earlier in this video, is John staring at the face of time and realizing that you can't win. And the sooner you accept that, the easier life will be. Nearly every song on this album is a gut punch, and each entry has felt more personal to me the longer that I have gone listening to this album. And it would be silly of me to not mention John Mayer's cover of Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix. a love letter to one of his biggest influences. And I'll be damned if anyone says he didn't pull it off because, well, you'd simply be lying if you said that. The album captured a certain sense of innocence that John Mayer, at the time of release, still had, an innocence that he has long worked to repair the past decade. And let's not forget the iconic Where the Light Is performance. The iconic live album concert film filmed at the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles, California in December of 2007, which was broken apart into multiple performances, an acoustic set, a John Mayer trio set, and a full band set, which ended up being over 2 hours of music. Two of the most well-remembered moments from this being the free-fallen Tom Petty cover and In Your Atmosphere, a still unreleased song that only exists on Where the Light Is. Where the Light Is was really an extension of Continuum in my eyes, as it featured many songs from that album during that album cycle, and captures a moment in John Mayer's career that he'll never get back, and for good reason, because to recreate the past would be inauthentic to the artist that John Mayer is in 2025. Continuum still feels relevant, not because it predicted the future, but because it captured something timeless, change, the inevitable march of time, the fear of getting older, the way love slips through your fingers no matter how hard you try to hold on. Something I didn't even mention in this video yet is that this album ushered in a wave of new artists that were inspired by John Mayer. Some of those include Jacob Collier, Lizzie McAlpine, Alec Benjamin, Annika Bennett. The list goes on. Zach Bryan has even cited John Mayer as an influence, and they've since collaborated and will be performing a show together this summer in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the biggest headlining show in the United States ever by a solo artist. So the question you may be asking is Continuum John Mayer's best album? I really think so. Continuum paved the way for albums like Born and Raised to be made within John Mayer's discography. Continuum is the one, the record that defined John Mayer's career, the album that turned a pop star into an artist. This is the album that, decades from now, will be sitting on vinyl shelves, waiting to be discovered by a whole new generation. Continuum was such a lightning in a bottle moment for John Mayer that he's been on record, years after the album's release, while promoting new music, stating that Continuum was his best album. And I have to respect that. I personally believe that John Mayer has one of the best discographies of any of my favorite artists. And with each album, he continually finds new ways to reinvent himself and say something new. I love Continuum so much that I went and saw John Mayer perform on the Sob Rock Tour in 2022 in Pittsburgh, all by myself. I was in the front row and I paid a stupid amount of money for the ticket, but I brought a copy of Continuum with me, hoping that at the end of his set, I might be able to get him to sign it. Lo and behold, at the end of his set, we made eye contact during New Light, and he signed the record for me.
I'm doing all this love that's running through my veins for you. Thank you. Love you.
It was such a cool moment for me, and I will never forget it. The album's actually framed behind me. You just can't see it. John, if you somehow see this, I would love to have a conversation with you and do an interview for Common Revolt. You're definitely my dream artist to speak to, so this message is for you. Maybe someday we'll be able to have a conversation. So, what do you think? Is Continuum John Mayer's magnum opus? What's your favorite track on this album? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. My name is Tyler Common. This is Common Revolt. According to my analytics, I think 98% of the people that view my videos are not yet subscribed, so if that's you, please hit subscribe. It helps me more than you know. Stay tuned for more John Mayer videos just like this one. We'll see you next time.